And I get to see Ramses about every day, and that's a blessing to me. He's a good, godly young man. You come up and give us what the Lord's laid on your heart.
Today I'm going to be talking about God's promises. Oh, there's two kinds of promises. There's man's promises and there's God's promises. Please turn to 1 Samuel 17. And in verse 23, it says, "And as he talked with them, behold, there came up the champion, the Philistine of Gath, Goliath by name, out of the armies of the Philistines, and spake according to the same words. And David heard them. And all the men of Israel, when they saw the man, fled from him and were sore afraid. And the men of Israel said, Have you seen this man that is come up? Surely to defy Israel is he come up. And it shall be that the man who killeth him, the king will enrich him great riches, and will give him his daughter, and make his father's house free from Israel." So right here, this is the story about David and Goliath. The Philistines are fighting Israel right now, and they want to do basically a duel between Israel and David. Whoever wins, the other army will be the winner's slave. And everyone is afraid of Goliath because he's a giant. And then David comes because his father told him to come to check on his brothers because they were away for a while. So Saul is trying to get people to fight him by saying that he will enrich him with great riches, will give him his daughter, and make his father's house free in Israel. Well, David goes, he defeats Goliath, but Saul doesn't hold his end of it. He doesn't give him what Saul promised. As we see in 1 Samuel 18, verse 17. And Saul said to David, Behold, my elder daughter Merab, her will I give thee to wife. Only be thou valiant for me, and fight the Lord's battles. For Saul said, Let not my hand be upon him, but the hand of the Philistines be upon him. And David said unto Saul, Who am I, and what is my life, or my father's family in Israel, that I should be son-in-law to the king? But it came to pass at the time when Merab, Saul's daughter, would have been given to David, that she was given unto Adriel the Meholathite to wife. So even in chapter 17, Saul promised David his daughter for a wife, but he doesn't do that until later. But then he doesn't even give him his eldest daughter, because in verse 25 it says, Thus shall you say to David, The king desireth not any dowry but 100 foreskins of the Philistines, to be avenged of the king's enemies. So Saul thought to make David fall by the hand of the Philistines. So even then, instead of giving Michal to David for wife, David has to fight and do stuff for Saul before. In Luke 22, 33, and 22, 33. This is during the Passover with Jesus. Jesus' final dinner. In verse 33, it says, and he said unto him, Lord, I am ready to go with thee, both into prison and to death. And he said, I tell you, Peter, the cock shall not crow this day before thou shalt thrice deny that thou knowest me. So here, God's talking about how he's going to be crucified, and that everybody is going to flee from him and not stay with him. Peter, he says, I'm not going to leave you. I'll be ready to go to prison and to death with you. But in Luke 22:54, and they took they him and led him and brought him into the high priest's house, and Peter followed afar off. And when they had kindled a fire in the midst of the hall, they were set down together. Peter sat down among them. But a certain maid beheld him as he sat by the fire, and earnestly looked upon him, and said, This man was also with him. And he denied him, saying, Woman, I know him not. And after a little while another saw him, and said, Thou art also of them. And Peter said, Man, I am not. And about the space of 1 hour after another, confidently confirmed, saying, Of truth, this fellow also is with him, for he is Galilean. And Peter said, Man, I know not what thou sayest. And immediately while he yet spake, the cock crew. And the Lord turned and looked upon Peter. And Peter remembered the words of the Lord, how he said unto him, Before the cock crow, thou shalt deny me thrice. And Peter went out and wept bitterly. So here, Peter promised Jesus that he would be with him unto death. But as the Romans took Jesus, he helped stood up for him. But later when they took him, he didn't go with him. He followed afar off. And then later while they're doing they're judging him, Peter is following him, and as God predicted, as Jesus predicted, he denied him thrice. So instead of being with him like he promised, he completely denied him. And that's man promises. Men's promises, because of flesh, men tend, because of flesh, they look after themselves. So any promises they make, as long as it's not with God, they're most likely not going to follow through with that because it's in the flesh. In Genesis 17, 16, it says, God's talk in 15 it says, And God said unto Abraham, As for Sarai thy wife, thou shalt not call her name Sarai, but Sarah shall her name be. And I will bless her, and give thee a son, also of her. Yea, I will bless her, and she shall be a mother of nations. Kings of people shall be of her. Here, God is telling Abraham that his wife Sarah, as she's getting older, is going to have a son, and she's going to basically give birth to an entire nation. In verse 17, it says, Then Abraham fell upon his face and laughed, and said in his heart, Shall a child be born unto him that is 100 years old? Shall Sarah that is 90 years old bear? So here, Abraham kind of doubting God right now, saying, Well, we're so old, how are we going to have a child? But in Genesis 21, in verse 2, it says, For Sarah conceived and bare Abraham a son in his old age, at a set time of which God had spoken to him. So here God fulfills his promise in giving Abraham a son, which then led to the nation of Israel being born. In Numbers 13, in 24, Moses has sent 12 spies into Canaan to spy out the land, and they see giants, and it's a very fruitful land, but 10 of the spies are saying, We can't do this, you're too strong, we're going to lose, there's no point in even trying. But Joshua and Caleb, they said, No, with God's power, we will do it. And in verse 24, in verse 30 it says, And Caleb stilled the people before Moses and said, Let us go up at once and possess it, for we are well able to overcome it. So here, Caleb's saying, We can do this. In Numbers 14:24, God's talking to Moses. In 23 it says, Surely, he's talking about all the other people of Israel. It says, Surely they shall not see the land which I swear unto the fathers, neither shall any of them that provoke me see it. But my servant Caleb, because he hath had another spirit with him and hath followed me fully, him will I bring into the land whereunto he went, and his seed shall possess it. Here's God's promising Caleb that he is going to survive the 40-year journey, because they have to go back because he didn't take it. But Caleb's going to survive, and his descendants are going to have a land. In Joshua 14, this entire chapter, most of the chapter is talking about how Caleb gets what God promised him. In verse 6, it says, Then the children of Judah came unto Joshua and Gilgal, and Caleb the son of Jephunneh the Kenizzite said, unto him, Thou knowest the thing that the Lord said unto Moses, the man of God, concerning me and thee in Kadesh Barnea. 4 years old was I when Moses, the servant of the Lord, sent me from Kadesh Barnea to spy out the land, and I brought him word again, as was in mine heart. Nevertheless, my brethren that went up with me made the heart of the people melt, but I wholly followed the Lord my God. Moses sware on that day, saying, Surely the land whereon thy feet have trodden shall be thy inheritance, and thy children's forever, because thou hast wholly followed the Lord my God. Now behold, the Lord hath kept me alive, as he said, these 405 years, ever since the Lord spake his word to Moses, when the children of Israel wandered the wilderness. And now, lo, I am this day 85 years old, and yet I am as strong this day as I went in the day that Moses sent me. As my strength was then, even so is my strength now. The war both to go out and come in. So here Caleb's telling Joshua, God promised me that I would get land, and he's saying he's 85 years old right now. And in verse 11, he's telling Joshua that he is as strong now as he was when he was buying out the land 45 years ago. So that God kept his promise to Caleb and actually helped him fulfill that promise by giving him the strength for him to conquer. And that's it.
It's when I think about the first time I ever preached mercy, he just did about 5 times better than I ever did. I'll tell you that. Thank you for that.